We have a motion to approve the first reading.
Make a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, is it, I know that the comment was made that there's not a legal pool in the city today because we have to have approval from the zoning commission. Is that common? I mean, is that common that we should ask for that?
That's why we're trying to change it to where we're removing the zoning commission and making it the council and
With a permit,
yeah, the permit process and approval.
because
So we're wanting to remove that then?
So we're removing the process of going through the zoning, planning and zoning, is that what it
It
is?
says the location of swimming pool waiting shall be approved by the planning and zoning.
that's the way it reads currently.
That's why it's still in there.
Well, I think it should, isn't it, like any other building permit?
I just,
The zoning commission has stated that they have not had one request come to them.
How does it,
And they don't care, they really don't have a standing whether they want to have that.
isn't there some process like when you apply for a building permit that they come out and measure the setbacks and it's probably not planning and zoning, it's probably the city.
It's part of what Richard does, yeah.
So maybe it's just the building permit that you need.
yeah, and that's in here, and
Let's
it
do it.
tells them where you have to have it. I was just questioning, I know that the comment was made that we don't have a single legal pool because no one went there, but yet we're gonna keep it. I see that it's
Yeah, I
in
thought
there
it
still.
was
That's what we were taking out.
with Andy,
No, you took out point number one.
Point number one.
But Andy was supposed to rewrite that or have that one part.
That's right.
Am I reading it correctly?
Discussions with the
Yeah,
zoning.
you are.
It goes beyond just that. I mean, it tells you gotta have a fence or not. It tells you where you can have it. You have to get a permit. The permit costs so much. It's not just taking it out of the zoning. It's
Do we need to table it?
I don't think we're gonna have any swimming pools put in the next 3 or 4
I'd like to
months,
get in
so-
line and winterize it. I wanna make sure I'm legal. Before it gets any colder.
With that one portion, with the zoning in there, no pool in the city is legal at the moment, because no pool, no
Nobody's went to the
has
zoning.
gone to the zoning for approval. It's all gone either to the city or who.
Through a permit, because I signed off a couple of permits,
See, I'm not familiar with.
not remembering that it had to go to zoning.
Yeah, so,
Professional opinion?
Clean it up if you want to clean it up. I mean, I would say that if you're not following it, get rid of it.
yeah, and
If we're wanting to do away with the planning and zoning committee looking at it,
it is a city liable if we don't have some sort of a swimming
we just will
pool.
table it and get it right.
I agree.
There's an
We'll have to do
international
another public
one
hearing.
out there, but
Okay, so do you want me to change that and then bring it back or schedule another public hearing?
We'll have to reschedule another public hearing with it as it's gonna be published, right?
Yes,
So
but
we'll have to change it.
I've already published for 2 public
So-
hearings now, so. if
Let's
anyone looks
Make
better.
sure we have out of here what we want out of here, in here what we want in here this time.
Before we do that, I have a question for Gayla. If the city does not have a swimming pool ordinance, is the city liable if something happens in a swimming pool?
I would say that it would not be, but most cities do it because it's a public health and safety issue that they want to protect children.
To me, it's more an issue of where people put them and what it portrays for looks, people driving through town, just get a bunch of different cars. I think it's more interested in, I mean, the safety side of it, yeah, but I mean, I think our regulation on it more is where it's located. Am I not correct on that? I think it's more about appearance than.
the last time I spoke to Andy, who was in discussion with planning and zoning, they agreed that they did not need to be in this process. And so it's supposed to be been changed to the code enforcement and city council.
Like code enforcement,
Code
city
enforcement,
council.
however.
So I think to make that right, since we don't have the code enforcement, I think we need to put by the city council of the city of Bloomfield or the code enforcement officer, so when we get that, we don't have to change the ordinance again, it's already in there.
I think that should be as appointed, whether that ends up being the DPW or the code
Yeah,
enforcement.
so I think it needs to put and or
I'm good with that.
that.
Do you even need, we require a permit. To me, that's part of the permitting process, isn't it? Do you need that? Because to me, what is there to approve? If it meets setback requirements and it meets the ordinance, shouldn't need to come to the city council.
Yeah, that's why it should be the or. If there's a conflict or if there's an argument, then you come to the council, but the code enforcement should have the authority to approve this.
So if somebody comes in wanting to put a pool other than a place that the ordinance allows it, they'll have to come to the council to get a variance.
Right.
That's the only reason that whole line's in there is for the variance part of it. Because the permit and the permit person, as long as it's following the ordinance, can approve it. So the only time the city council will even be involved is if there's a variance.
Actually, there's a committee for that too.
Is everybody's questions answered?
Is that all that you want changed?
I think so. We'll have to put it out for another, get it redone, put it out for another public hearing. Bring back. Probably have to be the first meeting in November, won't it, in order to,
No.
we got enough time to get it on next meeting. So we'll bring it back at the next meeting for the first reading again. Public hearing to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Bloomfield by amending chapter 7.07 by specifying who is authorized to sign checks.
Move to go into public hearing.
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any public comments?
Are we able to hear them, Keely?
Again, if they're on the phone, they just star 6 to unmute themselves, and then
Have you received anything?
No, I've received nothing.
they can unmute on their computers as well. Just click the microphone.
Did you watch it on the video yet?
nothing on video, she's just listening on the phone now.
It looks like there's a video streaming.
Anybody got any comments on this?
Was this the, updating the ordinance for this? I haven't seen the final update on that. I didn't see the final draft.
This is it.
I thought it would state the names. but it was not.
Names.
That's in a resolution.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So my only concern with this is with talking to the auditor. He had some other ideas that would help with segregation of duties by who signed the checks. And the fact that nobody signed checks, it's all electronic. So So everybody's just signing whoever's name is there. Person that's named on the check is not actually signing the check nor authorizing the signature of the check. It's just whoever pushes the button to sign the check. We got 3 people that can write checks. So they can write checks, push the button, your name, whoever's name it is automatically on the check. So he thinks there ought to be, some places have like a passcode where whoever's to sign the checks can go in on the program and put a passcode in, and then it releases their name to go on the checks.
Our system does not have that capability.
But there's some other methods, and I just wondered if we wanted to hold off on this until he come and give the report and an update, kind of talk about some of that stuff, so that when we do the ordinance, it's like a one and done. So we're not redoing it again if we change that.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah,
This is Tommy Joe. I was just going to let you guys know that I did check with our computer software company, and they don't have the capability of doing a password protective thing. The only thing we could really do on their end is print the check and get live signatures. But the only thing we have to think about with the live signatures is whoever would personally sign the checks, each of the checks, would need to be available, payroll days or anytime we have one of those checks that we need to write without council approval that's in the resolution or the Friday after when we play claims. So they don't have that capability of doing it. They can restrict, and they have restricted, who has that module to be able to print the check. Down, we can say who has the authority to do that. So they can, if, for example, if Kyle's not able to print a check, if she goes to click on that module, it won't let her do it personally. So that's about the only kind of safety measure restriction that they can offer us. Just want to give you a heads up.
It seems to me if we have people printing checks with other people's signature on them, we have no internal controls. So,
I've always been auto pen.
Well, the part of the internal control is after we sign the check, then a second person has to, double check the claims, make sure that the check number matches, the amount matches the person that it's payable to. We sign off on that, a second person, after the first person does the check. So that's part internal control. The other thing is in the system, it does show and print our initials when we, print any kind of report or anything on the checks. They did confirm that they can see whose sign-on is used when that is activated. So if we had a question, we could go back and our initials are on there. Was it my sign-on or Sandy's or whoever that did it? So there's still a little bit of control, but yeah, it might be something that we need to talk through some more ideas maybe and then look at.
well, we have no signature. From a signature standpoint, we have no internal controls. I'm just wondering what good it does for us to have an ordinance at all about who had, or a resolution or whatever, or about who has to sign checks. I didn't realize that we didn't act, that the people in the ordinance and the signing resolution were not actually signing the checks, that it was city staff printing them with their signatures.
How long have you done auto pen? Sam?
how long have we done electronic signatures?
I would say since 2002 when we got the system.
I guess I never really thought about it.
Well,
Right,
here's
like
the other question too. It says city administrator or clerk. Right now, we have an ordinance. One person is the city administrator / clerk.
Yeah.
And I know we voted to make Sandy clerk. So now we got another ordinance that isn't correct. Because now we have a city administrator / clerk, and we as a council.
Okay, that ordinance has been changed, it just hasn't been codified.
but the clerk word's still at the top of it.
Because it hasn't been codified yet.
Well, I didn't think we removed, did you remove clerk from the ordinance? I thought that was still there.
No, it's just city administrator.
So the new ordinance is just strictly city administrator?
That's correct.
I thought we accomplished that.
Well, that was bad information I got, but, right, I mean, so we got, that ordinance is in effect, it just hasn't been
It
codified.
hasn't been codified yet.
Is this the first time the auditor brought it up as a concern? I mean, if we've done it since 2002.
The auditor was unaware that we electronically sign checks. He didn't know it wasn't a wet signature.
Or the person pushing the button that it electronically is.
Yeah, I mean, so, no, he wasn't aware of how we sign checks.
Davey, how does this work? So we do the first, we approve it, if we approve this tonight, we do the first reading, the second reading. Do we then vote on it again after the second reading?
Tonight, if you pass the first reading, then at the next meeting, we'll do the second reading. And then at the next meeting, we would do the third reading, and you would have to vote each time.
Guess what I would say to keep it moving is, I'd be in favor of approving it tonight, seeing if we can get the auditor in sometime between now and whenever the final approval is. Can we do that?
I can try to get him in, yes.
That gives us three,
If it changes the ordinance, you gotta start over.
But that doesn't put us any farther behind than,
The only thing is, if you get it like you want it, like it, you can waive that, we can do the first reading, waive the second and third, and approve it all in one night. So you can either take 3 meetings to do it or do it in one.
to me, I look at it as two separate issues. However we establish check signing is one thing, that's the ordinance, and then the electronic signing is the process. That's like a procedural staff issue, it seems like. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not current with the times, that seems like the bigger issue.
Cause I don't know, I've never signed a check. You
I've
signed a
never
personal check?
physically signed a check.
Oh, our name.
And I don't care if I never physically sign a check. I don't care if I sign a check electronic. It's not about whether or not I can sign a check. I don't care about that part. I just want to make sure we're following the ordinance by however we're doing it. So is everybody okay with the way it reads?
I'm good with it.
So one other question, so if we end up where the city administrator is the clerk again, and finance manager and that part, does this allow 2 other people to sign checks?
No,
So do we need to word it so it can?
so the
I
question there would be
I would
what,
suggest making it or.
That's 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think typically you would have somebody who is an employee in the traditional sense. That's why you got the city administrator or city clerk. And then you've got an elected official as the second signatory. And in the event you end up in a situation where your clerk, administrator, finance officer are all the same, I think your auditor's probably gonna tell you that somebody else is gonna have to do the bank recs. Because that's the trade-off. Whoever signs can't do the bank reconciliations.
What if it's 2 elected people?
So that's what I'm saying, is there some way we can word this to where 2 elected people could be on the checks for that short period of time until we got it resolved? Or is it against, is that something for the auditor too? Is it against policy to have two elected officials signing checks?
I think that's a good question for the auditor.
You know, they're always talking about separation of stuff, so if the administrator, clerk, or whatever didn't sign, you had the mayor pro tem as your signatures. We already know it's auto pen, so it's not like we're going in and signing it ourselves anyway.
Which I run that past him, that scenario we're talking about, and he didn't have an issue with it. When I talked to him, if say it was mayor pro tem, or, I mean, I didn't say council member.
The
but-
way we're doing the auto pen, the signature has no role in the internal controls anyway.
No, but it makes it so that, you're right, it doesn't.
Cause you,
But-
that's not even a first set of.
But to the auditor, that way, the administrator / clerk isn't a signatory.
But they can,
So that steps
but they
down.
can be a signatory as long as they can print checks. Cause they can print it with whoever's signature is supposed to be on there.
Well, I think at that point, I think that position needs to be taken out of the check writing rule.
Same person writing the check can't sign
Right. And then
it. So that
And
could,
Again, I come back, it's irrelevant because it's not, that person's not signing it, like that step isn't happening.
it's been relevant since spring.
Since whenever we
Nobody
started doing
signs
auto pen. Yeah,
Well, 18 years ago.
yeah. To me, I think the segregation of duties would be between check printing and bank reconciliations, it sounds like. That would be your important segregation of duties.
But in an office with a small staff as we have, that's gonna get pretty dicey.
Right now, the person who writes the checks does not do bank rec.
Right, to me, that's the separation you wanna maintain.
You write the checks?
No, I do not.
Alicia does.
Alicia writes checks and Tommy Joe writes checks.
And then who does the reconciliation?
Tommy Joe does. But Tommy Joe does not sign the checks.
And
Right
on
now-
my, I was gonna say on payroll, it's all direct deposit with the exception of 2 checks, and then the insurance.
But the internal control on that would be who can initiate the direct deposit or who can print the checks, not whose actual signature's on them. Because that's what initiates the
Correct.
direct deposit.
Correct.
So that's what we should, the bank reconciliation should be a separate employee from check printing. I think. And the signatures is, it sounds to me like the signatures is just a formality. It's just, it's a waste of air to even talk about.
Which
And
is
if
why
audit-
we have,
I don't know, the auditor puts a lot of weight on signatures. Well, I understand what you're saying, and I'm with you on that, but the auditor puts a lot of weight on 2 people signing that check, regardless of how
But
they
that's what
do it.
makes me think that then that makes me think the auditor must believe that they're wet signatures.
But he doesn't know that. He didn't know that till now. He knows it now that they're not. And that's where he was,
Cause you could have, the way it is now, you can have signature authority. It sounds like now, if a non-city staff person, whoever the non-city staff person is that has signature authority, they are incapable of stealing money from the city. Because they can't initiate a check.
Correct.
But it sounds like any person that has the ability to initiate a direct deposit or transfer or print a check, if that is also the person that does bank reconciliations, they could. And the whole purpose of segregation of duties is separating duties to prevent that from happening, just as a matter of like, it's physically impossible. And that's where I think we should, I didn't realize we didn't have wet signatures. So I think we've been spending a lot of wasted time on signature authority because That's just whose name's printed on the check. It's like the president's name on the stimulus checks.
Bring the insurance check you.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
So I think our bigger issue is segregation of duties over whose name's on it.
Yes, I agree with
And that
that.
takes a certain number of people to be able to get that done.
But we should be able, I think we should be able to staff that. If you look at our, I think we should be able to separate check printing and bank reconciliation. I think. That should,
The hard part is the confidential part, so particularly the
payroll.
payroll. You're gonna have to have
Yeah.
2 confidential employees that are involved in that.
Well, right now, Tommy Joe and I are the only ones that can get into payroll.
And the other segregation there a little bit's messed because with her coming on as finance manager and taking some duties, payroll was one of the duties that she took over, and then throwing her into the city administrator role. We screwed up the segregation of duties a little bit there. So I guess internally, I mean, with help from the auditor and office staff, I guess we'll have to figure out a better way of segregation of duties for that particular issue.
And part of that is why I go in and do final reconciliations and sign those off after they've done them. One of us is supposed to go in and do that, so.
And you weren't here that meeting. You weren't here that meeting, so we appointed you. That's what happened.
Oh, okay.
The people voted you in for 4 more years, Earl. You left that part out of
I did.
off of your sign.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I can call the auditor and work with him on what would be best from an audit standpoint as far as who in the office should do what delegation. We can work through that. That's not a problem.
I'm glad we had the discussion, because I think it's
Yeah.
helped me understand
Yeah.
the issue, because I think this has come up before. I remember the segregation of duties coming up, and this is kind of
It
clarified.
comes up every year on our audit report.
Yeah.
I didn't know you didn't know it.
And I
didn't know that at all.
on every city in the state,
Yeah.
because nobody's big enough to do it.
Nobody's got enough staff to do
I did not know.
do it.
No, I think this is good discussion. I think we'll
Share staff with other cities.
get to the point of what we should be getting at of the signatures instead of where we've been.
I can't disagree with you.
So, is everybody okay with this? Do you think this covers the best we can cover with the way it's worded for
Or do we need to wait for the auditor?
any scenario, or?
I'm okay with waiting for the auditor. I mean,
I mean, I guess the only other way to do it would be put and or in between everybody instead of just or.
yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that would,
go mayor pro tem, city administrator,
city clerk, and you could put and
Or
or in
city
between all of them. and
any
then-
2 of the above.
Two of the
Like I
following
said.
4.
2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4?
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, the city administrator should only be allowed if any of the,
Others.
if any 2 of the aforementioned can. I think they should be the last person allowed because of their role. And then that helps us better with segregation of duties by knowing that that person's only allowed to sign checks. You wanna rewrite it?
Or just put and or in?
Can we, well, we can. Can we approve it with changes? We really can't for the public hearing, can we?
No.
We have to republish it and go through it again?
I don't know. Sorry.
I think we have in the past approved the
With
first
changes.
reading with with
a
changes.
modification.
Okay, so,
Because you got 2 more readings that
Right.
you catch it up.
and in that time frame, we can talk to the auditor in the second reading if we do more changes, and we have at least the third reading to finalize, if we need to publish it again after we change it.
Yeah, when it's finalized, we will publish the whole
Yeah.
ordinance.
It'll get published.
So do you have good enough notes on the changes?
Yes.
So we need a motion to approve the ordinance with the changes being mayor and/or mayor pro tem and/or city clerk, and city administrator only in the absence of 2 of the above, the 2 of the aforementioned, is that the right word? Big word for me, yeah. Everybody, is that right? Go for it.
Move to approve as stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Earl,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
Matt, yes, Darren.
Yeah.
We're still in open or in public hearing. Have we ever closed it?
We'll close the public hearing now.
Okay, all right.
That was just practice.
No, we still have to approve it after we changed, we had to vote on changing it. Close the public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approve first reading of an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bloomfield, Iowa by amending chapter 7.07 by specifying who is authorized to sign checks as voted earlier with changes.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Waive the second and third readings of an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bloomfield, Iowa by amending chapter 707 by specifying who is authorized to sign checks. Dies for lack of a motion.
Right.
Updates, police chief?
Yeah, this is Sean. This is a busy time, October. We got homecoming coming up, my favorite holiday, and we're working with the schools right now, and we put out something, and it's going to be kind of tricky with the COVID, and we're going to try to restrict some of the traffic we have to a car, and we are working with the schools on that, and I'll probably be paying out a lot of overtime, if that's okay, that week, just to have more cars out. Trick or treat is October 30th, as usual, and we'll be handing out glow sticks, and we'll probably be wearing face masks and all that good stuff. Sandy helped us out. She's working with us on getting a $1,000 public safety grant, so that's going to help us a lot. And Tommy Joe sent us out a budget, so we'll be working on that. And I'm just back from a week-long conference or class up at Fort Dodge or Camp Dodge, and so I might be loaned out to other agencies for, it's called crisis negotiations. So, but other than that, it was a good week, and I did not get my stats done for the month, but I'll have them to you for the next meeting.
Sean, my wife and I are working on some home improvement projects. Are you available to stop by for some of that crisis negotiation?
Yeah. Well, I just hope you don't have no toilet paper while you're trying to renovate.
We might save you for that.
You have to wear a different kind of mask.
Yeah.
gorilla or something.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Yep.
Fire chief,
Tonight we had Med Compass at the fire station. They did the physicals on 6 of the 9. 3 of them couldn't make it due to work-related incidences. We also had 2 from Flores and 1 from Drakesville. So that's going real good. We're finishing up getting all the internet and all the cables ran across the ceiling, getting all that put back together. We've got the fire prevention materials going in. We've been struggling how we were gonna get them out to the kids. And we were having the Friends of the Fire Department meeting Tuesday night, and I was sitting there looking at the fire pup suit. I think what we're gonna do is have somebody make us a big mask, like what we're wearing tonight, and put on him. And we're gonna have Sparky make an appearance at the school and hand the bags to the teachers. So if the kids see that the mascot is still there, we're just not gonna be able to do stay down there on the street and do a program like we do every year. It would be 2 days, and 1 day they just wear us down. So we thought this would be the best way to still do fire prevention, still get Sparky within the school, and still make an appearance for the kids. So right now, that's our game plan. Other than that, everything else is going pretty good.
thanks. Taylor? Main Street?
Hi, this is Judy. We are working on a lot of things. We just had a successful cleanup of the Main Street district about a little over a week ago. Last weekend's fall sale within the district went pretty successfully since we had some people in town for the Antique Fest out at the fairgrounds. We are waiting to hear back on our challenge grant. I'm hoping to hear within the next week or so. And we're working on preparing Halloween kits for the businesses that are interested in participating in the trick or treat on the square. And we're just working very hard to see what we can do to get Christmas activities that are going to be safe for everybody, but still have activities, because I think everybody wants something. So of course like I said, we're working on that to try and be safe. That's pretty much it.
All right, thanks.
Hmm?
ECDC? Old business, approve second reading of an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bloomfield, Iowa by amending chapter 62.11 by amending subsection 3 to include revised penalties.
Jake, did you hear the one at about 6 o'clock? I was outside and I heard about all of them that went for about 30 seconds.
If we
I seen a guy go by your place that should have been using the good clear.
That's the two
About
issues.
65 mile an hour.
Speed and, speed and the gate brakes.
So-
Any motion
Motion to approve second reading.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I seen one this morning, had to use it, because somebody pulled out in front of it.
Discuss and approve dashboard for City of Bloomfield's website.
I had sent, I had sent this via email, and I had sent you samples of the work that Hill Productions had done. But I was trying to give you more of a visual, and I'm sorry, this is the only way I can do it. This is an example of a dashboard that's used in Arapahoe County and in Colorado. The words on here would be different, and I sent this to you guys in email. I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at it. But what it does is it does several things. It helps us with 5-year strategic planning. It helps with transparency to the community. It has measurements tools on there to see when we're hitting goals that we set up. so that they can see where we are. So if you look at the way theirs is set up, I call them rocks. They have 3 big rocks that they have as headings. They have service first, fiscal responsibility, and quality of life. Underneath those headings are 3 smaller rocks where you start to drill down. So underneath service first, they talk about customer service, workforce excellence, community engagement. Underneath fiscal responsibility is financial health, operational efficiency, healthy economy, and then under quality of life is healthy environment, safe communities, and community care. So if we I don't want to go through all of them. If we go through, like, for instance, if I go down here, it's just so easy because you can just click on it. There we go. And then through our processes of
All working slow.
it is slow, I'm sorry. Our processes of figuring out our strategic plan, underneath financial health, it might be responsible spending, asset management, revenue trend, and employee resident ratio. So if we go underneath responsible spending, this gives the community an opportunity to see what our goals were. Let me pull it down just a little bit. A definition of what it is, why it's important, the county impact or the city impact, and an analysis of it. So in this case, there are 4 contributing measures within the responsible spending. And so you learn about these, you click here. So underneath here, in 2019, 14, I'm not sure what pick, but so underneath responsible spending, contributing measures is a structurally balanced budget, adequate reserves, diversification of revenues, and bond rating. So it has a description, it has what the target is, and then it has the analysis. So the target is ratio of expenditures to revenue is less than or equal to 1, and then they have an analysis of it. In this situation, they don't have necessarily the measurement tool, but down here you can see on the legend, green would be meeting or exceeding target, yellow would be close to target, red is below, and blue is data is pending. So as we work through these different things that we determine to be strategic planning, we're able to put it in a tangible form for us to see, for the community to measure, or for us to measure and for the community to see where the measurements are at. This is what a dashboard's for. New businesses that want to come into town, these are the things that they like to see. They like to see, first of all, that we do have a strategic plan, that we are working on it, that we're moving forward, that hitting the goals that we have set forth. They're looking for communities that are forward-thinking and analyzing their own deficiencies as well as their own successes. And everybody's included in on that. So this is what, I hope this helps you explain a little bit more what a dashboard is for, what it looks like. These things can be, like I said, whatever we want them to be, but that's how it works and function. If you go over here to quality of life, I'm sorry, it's just so slow.
When I looked at them, a couple of them, I couldn't get to work. Waiting on data.
Waiting on data. But underneath quality of life, for instance, would be how safe Bloomfield is, which we would get data from the police, telling us every quarter what the crime rate was and how it's split up. We would get measurements from the school to tell them how we're doing as far as the grade card's concerned. It might be enrollment, in declines or increases. It might be academically, proficiencies in math, science, whatever. It can be whatever we want to be. It can be recreational facilities. It's going to be determined. That's why when you're asking, well, what would it say? It's going to say whatever we want to measure and whatever our goals are. The hospital would be on board too, talking about what their goals are. So what would happen is every quarter or every year or semi-annually, however we determined we wanted to get that data and update. And I foresee some measurements being quarterly, some measurements being annually. They're not all going to be the same. They would send that data to me in spreadsheet form. and it would just be uploaded onto our dashboard. So that's how we would maintain the dashboard, is we would have to work with other entities to give us that information. I've already talked to several of the ones that I just mentioned, they're all about it. They're all about having a centralized location for city and community goals and a measurement tool to measure those goals so that we aren't just spinning our wheels, we're actually moving forward on what we said we're going to do. Does this help you to understand what I'm?
So the information that comes out is based on the information put in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And it'll be data that we have created at the city, depending on what goals we want. But I would encourage definitely like the hospital and school and places like that, you know, we're gonna get the data from them as well. We can't do this in a silo. This is something that would be community-wide. So we would need to work with other organizations to have a comprehensive program of snapshot of our city. And again, I just feel this is very important for new growth, for people moving in and new businesses.
Be one of those things that hospital and school and whoever could have a link to it. So when somebody's at their site, they could link right to it.
They have a new doctor coming to town. You could link right to it. I think it would help us with, like I said, with employees, businesses, and just transparency to the community. So it's multifaceted as far as its functionality, in my opinion. What can I answer?
Did we already approve the money for this, didn't we?
It's in my budget. It's $11,575.
Didn't we approve it with Hill?
You guys wanted more information.
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
So I sent you a bunch of emails and I thought I would do this tonight.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, it's advantageous for anyone, like you said, a business wanting to come to this part of the state. It's a database that they go to, you know, look at stats, they're looking for schools, look at schools, we have the hospital, our business structure, where we're at in the city.
It just shows a lot of forward thinking.
Include the company, Southern Iowa Electric.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And when we set this up and it's further down on the agenda, it's gonna take about 3 months to get built. Within that 3 months, I'd like to organize focus groups to come up with, you know, obviously inclusive of council and mayor, to come up with what is the 5-year plan? What areas do we really want to improve on? Where do we want to, what do we see happening? Maybe it's roads and streets, I don't know. Maybe it's, you know, the financial responsibility for the budget. Maybe it's employees, whatever we determine it to be. And then we can have it built and have that time to come up with our plan and be downloading information into the created program so that we just have a start date and ready to go. But this would be created by people in the community, council, mayor, staff, that want to be part of creating this project. There's a lot of business owners that, I mean, what a wealth of knowledge for them to be able to say, if I were moving to a community, this is what I would look for, this is what I would look for, and this is what I would look for. That needs to go on there. If I'm a new doctor coming to town and I want to see what the educational programs are like for my kids, I'm going to want to see that. And it's a one place they can go to do that. So this is a sample. Ours won't look like this. This is just, I like this platform because the button's big, the words are big, and you just click on them. And then it just tells you a graph. It might give you, I mean, we can do bar graphs, we can do pie charts, we can do all these things, but they're very simple. You just touch what you want to have happen. And it gives you, and then I like that it gives you a definition, because what we come up with a strategic plan, we'll need to define. So we'll need to come up with clear definitions on that as well.
Was that an annual fee or one time?
That's a one-time.
So they have a maintenance program or?
They do, and how I'm cutting costs with that, something like this, they would train me, and I would want a second person in the office or at least to know how to do it as well, maybe Keely. And we would just, basically it's just downloading Excel files.
Is it possible to get, local business sponsors? Is it possible to get local businesses as sponsors of the dashboard? So for example, someone looking to, move to town and they would have things
Banners and stuff.
that might pay.
That might be a revenue source to pay for,
It might also help local.
Yep. We can set, that's part of the focus group stuff. We can absolutely, we can build this however we want to build it. Right now, I'm just concerned with the data and the measurements.
That actually fits in with the project that DCDC is getting ready to start with.
Livability media.
They have a grant that they're going to start training local businesses on how to advertise their businesses via things like this.
Right.
And that's, should be, I think in the next 6 months, they should be starting that, or less than 6 months. So
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, man, that would.
Yeah, I've been working with John, too, on the stuff and with the livability media that you just spoke about.
Right.
So we're creating things for Bloomfield and Davis County that go hand in hand. So, yeah, John's well aware of this. We've talked about it, and, yeah. So, I don't know, is this enough information for what you asked me for last time?
I think so.
Any other questions?
Do you need anything from us to move forward, or?
I will need, when we start talking about the focus group a little bit, who wants to be involved in that. I just need to approve for me to spend the money to allow Hill Productions to create this program for us.
How much was it?
$11,575.
Have a motion to approve the dashboard for Hill Productions create.
Yeah, this is Jake. I'll make the motion that we approve the $11,575 to proceed with the dashboard for the City of Bloomfield.
Darren, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Set a public hearing on the acquisition and disposition of real estate on Early Bird Drive. Basically, there's the road out there's in the wrong spot, so we gotta buy, sell, and trade with a couple residents to leave the road where it is. And we needed to get that done before we seal coated it.
The surveyor's already been out there.
The surveys, it's,
Where we got drawn.
we gotta have a public hearing and a vote and have the parties sign the paperwork. I think that's all we got to do, and I think they're ready to sign it.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, to set the public hearing for,
October 15 at 7 o'clock.
okay,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discuss and approve advertising for bids request for temporary wall stabilization based on Tomatech engineering specifications and scope of work on the Madison Street buildings.
Ask a question that the architect or engineer, Jim, it was supposed to be on by phone tonight or available by phone. Can we check on that, Keely, or how do we?
Is anybody on from Tomatech? What's his name, Jim?
Jim.
Jim what?
Tomatech,
Jim Tomatech?
if I'm pronouncing it right.
Jim Tomatech, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Alright.
Can you hear me?
Good. We're trying to turn you up here a little.
I'm sorry?
There you go.
Now we can hear you.
So have you got some information for us for the stabilization of them buildings?
Yeah, I did send a quote down. We sent the drawings down, and you're welcome to have anybody that you like bid on it. So far, we've got one bid from Duncan Construction for $42,069. They're out of closer to Des Moines, so if you do have some local contractors that you would like to bid on it, we'd be glad to send them some plans.
Did they give a time frame of when they could possibly do it?
They really didn't. I would guess They'll probably be, starting in a couple weeks, but I can find that out.
I'm just curious, because that might make a difference too.
Sure, I would be glad to find that out.
So just
And then
for,
Tammy, I sent the drawings to Tammy. Did you get those, Tammy?
I did, and I forwarded them on to council and mayor.
And if somebody did want to bid on it, I'm not going to be available. Well, I'll be gone. I've pretty much got a full schedule next week, and then the following week I'm out of town, so I'd be the following week after that. I could maybe fit it in on Thursday if somebody needed to, if you wanted me to try to arrange a meeting with anybody.
We're kind of at the point where, Jim, we're kind of at the point where tonight we're asking city council to approve taking it out to bid. So that's where we're at for tonight.
So the non-tradesmen here, I guess one of the questions I think about the road projects where we got into them and it was change orders and change orders and change orders because you don't know until you get to digging. How sure are we of this scope of work in these plans, that this is gonna be sufficient, or are we gonna get change orders as we start to get into this?
Did you hear the question, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. And this is the difficult one because it's an older building, and once we start tearing into it, we don't know what's going to fall down. It's also kind of dangerous work because they are working under a partially collapsed building. I don't anticipate any change orders. We've worked with Duncan before and got through without change orders. So it's we've done some of the similar stabilization in Sheraton and worked with them with no problem. So I'm relatively confident that their bid is adequate and that they can do that for that price.
I mean, I guess from my standpoint, hiring a local yokel or somebody, I mean, I like to keep it local the best we can, but you're hiring inexperience and then you're hiring change orders. Because as they get in, they don't know what's going on, and so I guess in my construction experience, the guy that kind of knows what he's doing and what's going on is probably he might be higher at the beginning, but he's probably cheaper at the end.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And like I said, I'm fairly confident that they can do it for this price, and that he's been to the site. We've gone over what needs to be done, been fairly specific. So again, I can make sure that there's no changes, and we can kind of go from there.
So Jim, can you give me an idea of is this work what's necessary to be done for asbestos removal, or are these drawings with the idea of doing reconstruction?
Where they are, it's does not include asbestos removal. Tammy was going to take care of it.
My understanding was that we needed to stabilize the wall in order to permit asbestos removal.
That's probably correct. I mean, I wouldn't go in there unless somebody stabilized it. I was removing asbestos, so yes, I would guess that that's accurate. Tammy, did you get information from them?
She had to step out a minute to take a call. So the question is, with this work done, is the building stable enough to do the asbestos removal?
Yes.
Isn't that what he's?
Yeah. I'd like to see it sooner than later. Also, I got a call tonight, and I don't think that's been addressed to Richard or anyone else. Butch Priester, as y'all know, he owns the building to the north of the collapsing one. And he lives out of state now, so everything he's told us from his occupants. And I guess he was advised, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that one of the windows actually on the north side of his building was starting to separate, as though it looked like there was some more shifting to the building. And the buildings just up north of his were experiencing some what appears to be shifting. How accurate that is, I don't know. But it is something that we need to think about as part of the time schedule, better than later to get this.
Can we remove the orange fence after this is done?
I did look at the Priester building. We did the restoration for that one.
Yes.
And so at this point, I don't think it's moved, but we do have some baseline documentation of where it is. And I've also talked to the other building owner on the corner, and they're concerned about their building as well. And rightfully so, it has moved a little bit. And I am concerned that whatever we do, if we don't do anything, that's bad. It's going to get worse. And if we at least stabilize the one building with the failed wall, we have not having problems with the other building. But there's some work that needs to be done on the core building as well.
So will we be able to take the orange fence down after we do this?
Yes.
So we got 2 out of 3.
Who's writing the check for this one?
Yeah, and both buildings need monitored even after the stabilization is done. They are in what I'd refer to as progressive failure. And technically every building is in progressive failure. It's the rate of failure that we're concerned about. So when I say progressive failure, if you do nothing to the building, it will continue every year with the freeze-thaw cycles, with wind loads and snow loads. It will continue to get worse. They don't get better, is what I'm saying. And the facade on both buildings need repaired, and the interior wall needs rebuilt. And so some of those things would occur after the stabilization. But long term, as a council, you guys have to decide what you want to do with those buildings. And it's a continuing problem in every small town that the buildings around the square are 100 years old. A lot of them haven't been maintained as well as they should be. And the money for restoration costs more than what the building is worth.
So this stabilization wall is gonna improve the facade?
We're just it's not going to improve it, it's going to keep it from falling.
They're gonna tie the facade back with it?
Yeah, we're tying the brick has bulged at the front of the building.
Right.
And we're basically putting some steel channels out front and then using some tie rods to tie it back to try to get it closer to original position.
Okay.
It's not repairing it, it's only stabilizing it. And
right.
it definitely needs repaired at some time.
So, Jim, trying to think of the best way to ask this. Is it possible to do the restoration or the stabilization work for less if all we're planning on doing is removing the asbestos so the buildings can be demolished? Or is this the minimum amount that would need to be done just to get in to do asbestos?
Yeah, it pretty much is, honestly. There's maybe one portion that we wouldn't have to do if the buildings were going to be demolished. And so that's why I do want you to think through the whole thing. If they are going to be demolished, we could maybe eliminate $10,000 to $15,000 out of the bid. But again, that's something that we'd have to negotiate with the contractor.
Has anybody got any more questions for Jim? I think we're gonna do some discussing, Jim. You're willing to stay on if you want. If not, I think we've asked you everything we got.
Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and have Tammy get a hold of me, or somebody get a hold of me when you make a decision on what you'd like to do. And if you do have any more questions, you're welcome to email me collectively or individually if you have some questions on it. And whenever you're ready, I'd be glad to come back down and get things going.
All right, sounds good, thanks.
All right, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Discussion?
My concern is I think we're gonna be into these things close to $1 million. That's my overall concern, is it's gonna be death by 1,000 cuts. And it's not, we can't pass that kind of burden on to taxpayers. It was a building that a private owner failed to maintain, it's a building that no other private owner wants, and it's a building that at some point is gonna be, if renovated, will probably be passed on to a private owner in some form, and I just think this is a deal where our budget can get away from us real fast. I don't know that we have sounds like you gotta stabilize it to get the asbestos out, but that's my concern.
Yeah, if we got to stabilize it, it's still our property at the moment. If it were to collapse and then into the buildings, that could be $1 million.
Well, like I said, yeah.
Lawsuits, you know.
60,000.
I mean, what if he was talking, what, 42, 069? But if he could save 10 or 15,000, if your eventual intent is to tear it down.
Yeah, just asking, is it our intention, or I thought we was looking at the stabilizing, get that asbestos out, and then we're gonna try to sell it. I thought we had people interested in selling and purchasing it. Is that still an option?
That's our plan going
That's what we
forward.
would like to do.
So,
So what I'm gonna get is if we stabilize it and we remove the asbestos, and we can sell it then, why can't we sell it now? Or
Because we can't sell it with asbestos in it. Why?
You can sell it with asbestos
Not
legally.
as a- I don't think as a city we can.
It's a known danger, so if they want to have it removed, we wouldn't have any opportunity to sell it, I don't think, if asbestos.
Likelihood of finding a buyer with it, its current condition is very, very low.
Current condition ain't gonna get any better.
No, with stabilizing, asbestos is removed. Another thing that, and I talked a little bit about the grant money. If an independent person or an entity, nonprofit wanted to purchase the buildings, there's always a line on those grants that says city contribution. And they score much higher when there's a city contribution, so the likelihood for them to get grants to rehabilitate the buildings is much higher if they've got city contribution. For state and federal tax credits, that's the same situation as well, which they could apply for.
But at that time, we can make a monetary contribution, and then we have a known investment instead of,
We can do that through in kind too, can't
We can, we just have to put a price on it.
the thing that makes me nervous now is what are we getting into? That's what makes me nervous I don't have anything against old buildings. I live in an old house. I love old buildings. But this really concerns me that we're getting into something that could break our budget. And everything we've done on the streets and everything we're gonna do on the streets and on finances and on taxes will go right out the window. Because on our budget size, a $700,000 hickey is gonna be big.
Right.
That's,
Well, I think at the minimum, we have to do the stabilization just so we doesn't fall down this winter and you have $1 million cleanup because of
yeah,
that.
that's my concern. I understand what you're saying on that.
Yeah,
But if we do nothing and try to sell it as is and it collapses in that time frame, the liability on the city is huge.
what happens after the wall stabilization is to be determined.
Right, and that's where we're at with it too. My intention, or at least and Roger and I talking about it, was not to, have the city move forward with renovation. It was to get it to a point where it was stable, the asbestos was removed, the liability was taken away from the city, and it's not damaging other buildings. Because even if the other buildings didn't come down, we'd have to make those inside walls now outside walls. So there's cost involved in doing that as well, in addition to the building falling down itself.
Sounds like we could save $10,000 to $15,000 at this stage if we just stabilized it enough for those purposes.
I guess we'd have to talk to them to find out where that stabilization couldn't happen that doesn't need asbestos removed. Where are they not going to brace it and still be able to remove all the asbestos?
Yeah.
Because the asbestos is throughout.
I wonder if that is, that money to be saved in not bracing the facade.
Well, then can we remove the orange fence and the facade falls down? And how is that gonna affect the other two buildings if the facade falls down?
I think at this point, if we're not sure whether we're gonna tear them down, and if we're gonna try to repurpose them to some, or have somebody else repurpose the buildings, whether it be through whatever, without very much, if any, assistance from the city, money-wise, I mean, maybe some in-kind something. I think the extra 12 or 15,000 is probably cheaper now than it is later. And it sounds like they could be here in a couple of weeks possibly to start. Now, does that change anything? I'm okay with the 42 with the experience we're getting and the possibility of saving them if we can find somebody to save them.
We still have to bid, don't we? They can't be here in a couple of weeks because we still have to bid, right?
Well, he's got this bid.
But we have to bid, like, we still have to advertise it, don't we?
He already did one. This is the bid that he's got from somebody to do it. I mean, we can go out and advertise more if you want to, but I'm just saying, he got a bid from this company for that amount to do it.
Have we advertised yet?
No.
There is a 48,000 threshold, but it exceeds that, we have to have two bids.
Why did I think this one's
I
I
checked
thought it
on
was
that.
25.
I think they changed. For certain projects, I think it's different.
Yeah, there's vertical and horizontal. I checked with the engineers, they referred me to the Iowa code page, and that 48 was for 2,000.
I mean, if we want to go out to bid, we can.
I just thought we had to, that's why I asked.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I thought we had
And it does change, like I said. The dollar amount.
I mean, we can advertise it for a couple of weeks and see what we get. If we can do, so if it's under 48, we don't have to. But if we do, we have to take the lower bid,
Responsible bidder.
the lowest responsible bidder. So if you get one from somebody, say for 30, and then you got change order at 65.
And they're not responsible.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that he's gonna approve it. And we need his approval.
I'm kind of like, you
I'll just
Dan, I
wait
guess
for you guys to vote. I agree with what Dan said. I think, I'm okay with,
I had no problem with moving it. I think the time span, weather,
but
Yeah.
it's gonna get cold
you
soon.
move a quality company that's used to doing this sort of work.
As long as we're sure that 48, this number, as long as we're sure that we're not gonna get dinged for not going, accepting the one bid.
I think we're good.
We're good?
What do you want, Dan? You want a motion?
Is there any more discussions? Anybody got any more? I want everybody on the understanding that we're doing this to stabilize the buildings, to sell the buildings, for somebody else to renovate with some possible help from the city down the road. But we don't plan on putting any more money in.
Agreed.
And I think the citizens need to be, and this will get rid of the orange fence, it'll stabilize the facade, it can get the asbestos, we will have to spend the money for the asbestos removal, which is,
Well, after these are stabilized, the asbestos removal is gonna be a known quantity if one of the people interested wants to go ahead and buy the buildings and.
we can price it, I mean, we can try it with it, and we can try it without it.
Yeah.
Right. The big thing is just getting it stabilized.
Just so everybody's aware that
Yeah.
we're,
And that assistance can be TIF, can be in kind, like you said.
yeah, so, just so everybody's on the same page, that we're maxing out on the city's portion of these two buildings. Is everybody cool with that?
The money that you're spending, when we talk about the grants and somebody else getting grants, the money that we're putting into it now can be considered the city's money for the grant.
What we spent and what we put in.
Yeah, what we put into it can go on that
And what we
grant.
paid for them. And-
Right.
All right, so yes, I'm looking for a motion. To approve, are we approving this bid then from that firm? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need the motion for.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're gonna take care of getting a hold of Jim.
We'll take care of the rest of it.
Thanks. Approve entering into agreement with French Reniker Associates to administer the 2020 street seal coat project.
Okay, Matt. Matt Walker, are you there? Be safe.
You there, Matt?
He was.
Felt like he was stressed.
Well, if we can't pick him up, I'll go ahead. It's pretty brief. We had a pretty full summer, second and third quarter. As we're approaching fourth quarter of the fiscal year, we got a couple weeks left of North asphalt work, maybe 2.5 weeks. So our thoughts are that, if we recall earlier, we started out with 2.5 million for street work in this budget year. So we will have the remaining hard figures on those two street projects sometime next week, early next week. At that point in time, we can calculate then how much we will have spent on North Street plus the asphalt overlay. We should have a remaining balance. So we're trying to be proactive here, get a little bit ahead of the game, get our ducks in a row and a project for seal coat ready to go by October 15th meeting. So it'll be coming pretty quick. We checked around with potential bidders, and they say we can still get in. So it's going to kind of fast track. We'd like to enter an agreement with Matt Walker from French Reniker for a minimal observation and paperwork. He's looking at $5,000 to $6,000. I could give you a guess tonight on what I think we're going to have. I'm hoping to have around 100,000. It's simply a guess right now. So I have two projects coming up that I want the council to be aware of. The seal coat project is running a little less than it did earlier in the summer, roughly 3,000 to 3,300 a block for 330 feet. It's about $50,000 per mile. So we've identified a few streets right now. It can shrink or grow. And so within the next couple of weeks, within the next week, I hope to have it, I could email everyone the remaining balance. So then you could choose to spend that on more seal coat, less seal coat, and then also we have catch base work. So those two items are still out there, both heavily needed. And the And I'm just letting you guys know tonight that if we can vote to, hire Prince Reniker to help us with this, initial project of seal coat, then we'll be starting on it, right away.
If I remember right, seal coating is like a maintenance issue. If I remember right, seal coating is something we need to do every few years. It's basically a maintenance issue that helps maintain the streets.
Right.
It's cheaper to maintain
Every three,
years to
you
let it
should
go.
redo them every 3.
So that's the thing I'd be interested in is making, even if we're over budget, making sure that we are on that maintenance schedule.
Okay.
So what I would say is, the other thing that might be helpful is, hey, we need this is what we have left. We can do 30 blocks, we really ought to do 40 blocks. If we need to look at extra money for that, I'd like to at least have that presented, because I think it will help us keep on with what we have planned for the roads.
Right.
To not have to go back and fix the old ones.
Right.
Does that make?
It's very expensive. The point you bring out is that if we do it on schedule every 3 years, it's 3,000 plus a block. If we wait and have to tear it out and fix it, it's 10,000 a block.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense.
That's what I'd like to make sure we're staying, because I think that's part of how we got to where we are now, is we were skimming.
On the maintenance side of it, even if you get a pothole, they can do a small patch.
Right.
So they can go in and tear up that little area, pack it back down, and you're only paying this,
Square yard.
the square yard price, whatever it is.
Yeah.
For that small area, to where if you wait 10 years, you're doing the whole street.
I think it's super important for us, because I think that's how, one of the ways that we got with the infrastructure, the way we're trying to play catch up with.
Right.
And.
Very costly to do it this way.
Right, that's just mine.
Is a plan being developed as we're doing this? Because it seems like Matt said, we kind of got into this mess because the plan got lost.
Right.
I think we have a plan, don't we? We have a seal coat plan.
We had,
We had a plan that never got executed.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I keep hearing it got lost. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but.
Nobody lost it, it just didn't get executed.
Yeah, but I did
It can't
find,
be found.
I think we found it. Well, we actually created one.
Yeah.
Of our own,
Okay.
and it never got executed.
There was one before, and it didn't get executed,
It's the
they
one
got
that got
lost.
lost.
Then we had to do it, they didn't get executed.
So we created a new one with our streets project when we did the asphalt North Street. We had seal coat designed in that. And it's a year behind schedule, and the seal coating we had planned before never got executed.
I did find a catch basin plan that has been engineered. And I got that for you tonight too. So I'm gonna pass this around.
Is there a ballpark rough estimate per catch basin?
No estimate there. They've identified it. We spent
It was at one time.
$20-some thousand for it.
It was like 8,000,
We spent $28,665 for the catch basin plan to do 12 of them. So I made copies for everybody
We had
tonight.
24 or 5 that need done, right?
Oh, this is the first 12.
I know, but I'm saying we got 24 or 5 that need work.
Absolutely.
Well, the one they did on the square was pretty expensive, right? The rest of them was considerably cheaper.
but it ended up costing us a lot less than they first told us.
Well, we found somebody to come paint it for 3,000
Right.
instead of 13.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't separate. An extra one. Yeah. My fingers just.
But I think the cement work on that, I think is, we didn't get that cheapened up, but we did cheapen up the traffic control side.
Right.
Did you get them separated?
Yeah.
Thank
Some of that's another benefit of local contractors.
Could be. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit.
So do you want us to vote on this French Reniker thing first, and we can go into the next for the catch basin thing?
Right.
I need a motion to approve French Reniker to handle the paperwork and the inspection process for the seal coating.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now let's consider your information on the repair and replacement of catch basins.
Okay, this was developed in 2019, 12 individual numbered projects. We have the detailed drawings on each one of these numbered and with addresses. So I checked on the invoicing, we've already paid HR Green $28,665 to design it. Project number for the catch basin is 190249. And there again, the execution of this, it can be, we can do 1, 2, 3, do them all, depending on funding. So it's a,
Is the Kaufman, that his name,
yeah, he's not available till next year on this,
in the spring?
in the spring.
Have we got some that need to definitely be done this fall yet?
The one on Franklin there, just west of the city hall.
And then that one on East Street probably also,
Yeah,
South of the mark.
both sides.
both sides. So 3 of them at minimum, I'd like somebody to get working on. So we do.
My other question on this HR Green thing, since they engineered it, if we use their drawings, are we gonna have to pay the inspector gadget?
No, I
Come down and do that?
Matt can do it for us, or Chris Rector.
So he can do the inspection part of it, we just use their.
We paid for everything that he did for us.
Okay. But you don't have any idea, 2,500, 3,000, 5,000 apiece?
Right, probably would start around 3,500, it could go up to 10 on them bad ones, like on Franklin.
Like that double on East Street would probably be
Yeah, I mean,
I do notice, and I like when I'm gonna give the Norris a compliment. The circle there by my house.
yeah,
They got that asphalt laid perfect, and that water comes around there, and it runs right through that storm drain.
yeah, they were good. Good
I mean, they did a phenomenal job there with that, where that goes to that new storm drain, how they got it with that machine to do that, it was.
Backing up a little bit, because you mentioned, who was the engineer on the East Street Bridge?
We ended up using county.
But who was the first one that did those first drawings? The ones with the problem?
Shy Hattery.
Shad Hattery. Right. So you want to go out for bid for 2 weeks and bring them back at the next meeting? Is that enough time?
Yeah, we can see what we get.
I mean, I just hand them the sheet with all 12 and bid each one individually and just let them, and some of them want, and if we got something cheaper and something, then we can just let the bids per storm drain, and then we go as far as we can go.
Right. We could.
We pick
reserve
them
the
back.
right.
Yeah, we reserve the right to use anybody on any of them, and we choose which ones to get done in the order they get done, depending on how bad they are.
Right.
Does that's all you need, really? Does that make sense with everybody?
Yep.
That's all you need to move forward with getting bids to bring at the next meeting, and we can approve the bids at the next meeting.
So we'll just go within these 12, we can do 1, 12.
Right. Do we need to have the other 12 or 14? Do we need to have them engineered?
No, they're already engineered.
They're already done.
All
Everything-
25 of them?
Oh, no.
What I'm saying is the ones that aren't in here that need worked on, do they need to be engineered, or can we just have them done by a?
You'd think you could take a plan off one of the 12 we got and
Yeah,
Can we use a reliable contractor and
Yeah.
have Matt inspect them and make sure they're right?
most of them use the same precast,
right.
containers.
The hoods and all that stuff's got, I mean, it's got to match the curb, and I mean, it's not that hard to put it
It's
in.
a matter of elevation.
Not rocket
The
science.
streets already engineered.
I mean, I'm just So I just thought if we needed to, we maybe could think about getting the rest of them engineered, so we had that, but if we don't need to,
It'd
then
be a
let's,
different story if you're putting in a new street where they go in and put
we spent enough money to do them already.
And the streets are already engineered.
Alright, you got direction enough for that?
I don't know, that just, council's.
Now we're gonna go to the pole replacement. Keep on talking.
Hey. So with this, what we just talked about with, the catch basins, part of the work that we paid for was to set up bid documents. So, for a project. So what I've done here is copied those bid documents. I'll let Kayla review these I'll give her a copy first. So this is
your special.
what this is our first attempt to do a project in-house without an engineer on maintenance and repair. And which we're allowed to do that. But part of the work HR Green did was to develop this, what's the paperwork look like? And it's just simple, like where do you sign your name and, give that pertinent information. So we're gonna do 9 electric poles. We budgeted, there is money in this year's budget. Who's missing one, Tommy?
These 50-foot corner poles or?
I've got the actual. So we reached out for 2 companies. Kiowa has done work for us in the past, and then Liberty Line Builders they both are coming down to look at these 9 poles. These are the worst ones. We talked to Dave and they've been out driving and seeing the most difficult, worst poles, get them first. So most of these identified poles are what we would call cross poles. There's bays teeing in. So we're not planning any outages, so we changed the poles hot. So they'd have to pick up all those wires at once, take the pole out, put the new pole in. And I've got pictures and addresses here if anyone's interested in looking at them. If not, so we just define the scope of the work, identify them, and then call it the quoting contractor. And so he will take these documents and will receive a copy of the pictures also. Kiowa's already came in and picked up a bid packet. They'll seal that bid and we can bring it back on the 15th and the council can open the sealed bids.
Is that Liberty, is that new, are they a newer company?
They work for Mid-American in Des Moines quite a bit. They're private contractors and they've been over at Cedar Rapids quite a bit too lately.
Everybody's been Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. And Kiowa's been out on hurricane all summer on the East Coast. So none of this work will happen right away. Everyone's swamped, but sometime in December. Each one of them thought it'd be sometime in December.
Us electricians, we work out in the cold.
Yeah. So Gayla, have you looked at the 3rd page? I mean, do you see any problems that we need to change or?
No, it looks like it would have the relevant information.
So there again, I may make mistakes here, but we want to get this to be more of a routine thing. We're under 50,000, we just do it in-house, repair and replacement. That we want to do it so everyone knows what's going on. Everyone has an opportunity to look at projects. and then we do the paperwork properly. So,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, I just think it's probably in everybody's, no matter what it is, we just takes 2 minutes to run it by and vote on it and be done with it, that way we're just sure we're covered.
yeah.
Is there any, is there any other companies, I was trying to think.
There was one down Kirksville they were talking.
You know, we could sure send them copies.
Well, I mean, how do you publish? Do you publish something out for bid? You just send bid packets to whoever you find kind of in your area?
Yeah, there again, it's at 48,000
So
threshold.
who is in Kirksville?
I don't remember.
Is Kirksville the new,
Liberty?
Liberty's been around a while, Kyle's been around. There's a new one. There's a new company, is a woman on it?
I thought we got a sheet that with all their different prices.
Yeah, they offered to come and do our,
Weren't you talking to somebody in Kirksville about doing a maintenance program type thing or being on call?
That was,
Liberty.
Okay.
okay.
He was new, he's a young fellow. But if anybody knows anybody else, we sure like to give them a chance to bid. We're not limited to those two, but we can get along if that's all we do.
I don't know, is there somewhere that electrical contractors?
Like a Dodge report.
Yeah.
Might be. Hold up on that.
Or,
I don't know if the, IUB,
yeah.
something like that, post it or send, just send something to them that you're looking for contractors and they can put the word out to their people and get a hold of you for a packet if they're interested.
Glad you brought that up there, and I about forgot about Dodge.
Yeah. I don't use it, it's too expensive. Dodge report's too expensive for me.
All right, is that it on the polls? So we're on to the next. Are you done with that, Richard? Everything for the?
Yeah.
Discuss and approve contract with DPW.
I kind of asked to, not so much to discuss and approve a contract, but to discuss the contract with the DPW, because the contract, from what I understand, expired yesterday. And I guess, what's our plan? Are we gonna hire, or what are we gonna do? And,
I think the first 6 months expired yesterday, and there's an option we can exercise for an additional 3 months.
Correct.
I think it automatically.
It automatically renews for another 3 months.
I was under the impression that it was expired, and that's why I wanted it on the, so that it wouldn't.
Says if the council doesn't move to make a decision at that point, then it renews for 3 months and we can decide during that time.
Did we not have a discussion, I don't remember, when, like a month or two ago, on this subject? I thought we voted to take an offer. And, I just don't know where we're at on.
I think our discussion on that was to wait till we got somebody in the city administrator position so they could, and let them make that determination.
Yeah, there previously was a staff summary that Andy was gonna attach, but he had given his resignation, so we were waiting.
Did we discuss the salary or anything like that? I thought, again, and I'm probably thinking of different meetings, bringing them all into one, but I thought we discussed a salary on that meeting that we all agreed on. And if that's the case, what are we waiting for to make a decision to hire instead of keeping them on a contract base? For me, personally, I think Richard's been doing a fantastic job. The information that he presented tonight is top notch. I don't see why we're waiting to hire him full time instead of keeping him on contract.
Because it's the city administrator's job to hire.
I agree with,
I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but
Yeah, I'm just saying, what,
that's the reason why.
my thought was, with Andy leaving, we were gonna let Tommy Joe come in, take a look, let her make that decision.
Sure.
And move on, because we have that extra 90 days. But I agree, Jake, I agree, I think, when you look at the streets, I mean, it's been fantastic. From my perspective, it's not because there's any issue with Richard, it's because we had a changeover 2 weeks ago, whatever, with the city administrator.
Okay.
And for me personally, I think there's probably a difference on council. For me personally, I don't want to be in the hiring and firing business.
No, the only reason I put this on, I was under the impression that his contract expired yesterday. And I didn't want this to go on any more than what we had to, and so that's why I put it on tonight for discussion. And, just to bring it up, and.
No, I do think we will have to address compensation. I mean, I do think compensation will have to come to the council.
And that's what I thought we discussed already, and I wanted tonight's discussion to jog our memories, what that discussion was. I can't find the minutes.
So it's automatically good for another 90 days.
Okay, I'm good with that, I just thought it was expired.
I think it's probably a closed session discussion at the next meeting.
I was just gonna suggest that. I actually sat down, Richard and I had a conversation, so we're ready to move.
I think that's the close.
Right, and that's my whole purpose tonight, was just to get people in that mindset of, let's discuss this and get the ball rolling.
Sounds good.
But I know you just
We'll get it added.
got into your position, so I wasn't trying to.
No, I think he's done a good job for us, and
I'm certainly
getting projects done, and
I want to be consistent because I'm the one that raised this stick about it earlier about the city administrator and.
I agree, I just wanted to.
I even drove down North Street tonight, whether it's open or not, I don't know, the signs was all laying in the street and I had to dodge through, but
Yeah, I drove too.
it's kind of open.
First thing in the morning, everything's open.
Yep, now it's the damage, we gotta wait another 2 weeks. Way to go, guys.
All right, is everybody good with, is that what you just?
That's all I wanted, I didn't really want an action tonight.
No, it's good for,
Okay.
it automatically renewed for another 90 days, which in that period we can make. But we're waiting on filling the city administrator position.
Understood, like I said, I just thought it expired yesterday, I thought, well, let's,
Help make that decision.
yeah, let's get the ball rolling with my. Okay, thank you.
You didn't work with nothing today then, Richard?
Write that off on taxes, is it?
In kind. Discuss rental inspection procedures.
Brought that up last week, or the last meeting. Prior to Gary,
Hello?
prior to Gary, we'd had discussions about rental inspections, and it was off and on. And Gary did a little bit, and then when Andy kind of took over, we did a lot more, he did a lot more foot pounding. And we've got some notes taken, he and I, we sat down and had some discussions. I got some handouts at home, but my biggest concern right now is, number one, I'd like to know if we're gonna continue the ball rolling forward. And number two, I realize it's gonna take phases to get this done, but the first phase being, we need to decide, that you as a city council, if this is what the direction you wanna take. The second would be, put all this paperwork that I got down on another piece of paper and get it to you so that you can say what you want to have in it, what you don't want to have in it, the things I've heard from other towns, and keep these processes moving forward. So,
I think we should have rental inspections should be annual. They should have to get a certificate every year.
and I agree with that. The other thing is, we're maintaining a 5 ISO rating. With 2 things missing. We don't have a full-time fire department and we don't have a ladder truck, which is unusual. So by having these rental inspections and doing them, like you said, on a yearly basis, and not only include the rentals, but maybe some businesses on a real small type, you know, just, do you have a fire extinguisher, do you have a smoke detector, little things. We can continue to maintain our 5 rating, which saves the taxpayers some money on their insurance.
You're not interested in that ladder truck Piper had?
Well, here was the thing, I talked to him about the ladder truck, I could get the ladder truck, I talked to Pierce, I could get the ladder truck refitted, that was gonna be $100,000. But you gotta realize, a brand new ladder truck is 1.4 million. So I get this new ladder truck for 100,000, then I gotta come in here and ask you for a bigger building, cause I don't have a building to put it in.
Can we just have a ladder truck?
You can put it in my driveway,
Be
I'll
operational?
play with that thing all day long.
Oh,
So,
ladder unit.
at the end of the day, I looked, and we haven't had a ladder truck since 1889.
Yeah.
And we've got along just fine, so we're not gonna spend the money. Yes, it would be nice, but is it realistic? No. But I do believe these rental inspections are, because I've been in a number of houses, especially in the last few months, and quite frankly, they scared the shit out of me. That's just putting it bluntly.
Well, the bigger question for me is, who's gonna do them? We gotta find somebody to do inspections.
Well, there was a discussion about hiring somebody as a full-time.
Tammy, raise your hand.
Is that another meeting?
I mean,
I
we,
think so.
if we do it on an annual basis with the annual
I
permit,
think that's within the scope of this conversation. How you get it done.
I mean, can we have a closed session to talk about hiring for that position?
you're talking about hiring an employee, not,
Well, either hiring somebody or adding to somebody, I mean,
I thought maybe, did we talk at some point about hiring like a third party, like the person?
I think we looked into third party like and I don't think there was anybody,
We're charging for the license every year, so a portion of that fee would just go to pay for that.
but I don't think we found anybody that did that. Chris Ball looked into looked into organizations or somebody that does, because he found a couple up by Cedar Rapids or something, but I don't think they did rentals. I think it was.
I know the other cities,
We got to go back through.
like Oskaloosa, Tumwa, Fairfield, they do it within the fire department. That's part of their jobs.
That makes sense.
They're doing the businesses and they're doing this. But like I said, for tonight, if you don't even wanna move forward with it, then, you know, kinda.
I think we need to move
I
forward.
think everybody wants to move forward with it.
Good.
I just kinda like the idea.
But like I said, I got a stack of stuff like this at home that I need to organize so that I can give it to you so that you can read through it and say, yes, I want this, no, I don't want that, oh, that looks interesting. It has to be what you want.
My big things is I want them to look decent and not no longer be an eyesore.
Yeah.
I don't want a kid dying in an electrical fire, I don't want that. To me, those are the two big things.
And the other thing I would ask you, just put back in your memory, is if we find a house that is not meeting code and it's full of hoarders and it's a mess, this would be an opportune time to get with, say, the county supervisors and work with ADM and public safety, with environmental safety, where they can come in and look at the house and say, this house is not fit to be living in. This would be a huge opportunity to start working together again.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it would do just what you wanted to do, Matt. It would stop, hopefully nobody ever gets hurt. It would clean up a lot of these buildings.
Yeah. I can't believe we haven't had worse fires, honestly, in town.
I would say gather some more information. Or bring what you have, or email what you can, so we can look at it whenever.
If you need direction, I think everybody's in agreement here that we are interested in the program, continue what you're doing. The Mayor said, bring in information, and we can discuss the possible.
I think we need to have a discussion on how we wanna handle it
personnel wise, but I don't think we're prepared tonight.
I don't think.
And I'm not asking, I just wanted to make sure we can go take the ball forward. I'll put the information together and get it to you. You can take it and,
Start it down the hill, don't lay down in front of it.
okay. I do that.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Approve selling steel rods purchased from Bloomfield Bridge and Culvert and other city property at public auction. I think that's probably Richard.
I think.
Into the restroom.
You have a sentimental attachment to those, don't you?
Oh, man, I've been sitting on them for a year and a half on my trailer.
Are they still on there?
Yeah.
We're discussing your auction.
I need my trailer. I don't care whether we, take bids or whether we have an auction on them. Richard mentioned he had some other stuff to auction off.
I got a policy for disposal. I don't have a date on it. It's the most recent one, it just said, it's a policy of the city, all city property be sold through bid or at auction at the discretion of the council and mayor. So the council or mayor or committee at their discretion shall determine what city property should be sold, saved, and scrapped. If sold or scrapped, it shall also be determined the property will be posted, bid, or auctioned for sale. And payment by cash. We've got a very varied descriptions. We got some good stuff, and we got the asphalt millings, we got vehicles, we got office equipment, just pure scrap iron. But then also we have some things that maybe we want to talk about a little bit, and that would be the old meters. We got several hundred old meters. They don't have a lot of value, but I don't think maybe we want our meters to go to auction, somebody trying to resell them or reuse them or something like that. So those items, we probably should go back to, someone that does that professionally, a meter company that.
Is there anybody that rebuilds them of any type that they would have any value to anybody that, otherwise I think we need to destroy them.
Right. I think just go to a
Personal
crusher or somebody that would, just destroy it. But as public auction, I'd probably withhold that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Public auction.
Now, water meters, they've got some value scrap wise.
Yeah, brass, maybe.
Electric meter wouldn't have
anything.
symbol full of value in here.
It'd probably cost us more to ship them than we'd ever get out of them, but at least they're gone.
If somebody could repurpose them even, I guess, if they paid the freight. And we just got rid of them.
So that would be one item on the bottom there, but we've reached out to police and fire and the office people, and we're storing the office equipment in the old fire station overhead door. And the computers, we're not doing anything until we run them through a cleansing process. Somebody can do that.
Hillary?
Pardon me? Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere around the 20th or so of October. I mean, let's just get it done, get it over with.
So I guess according to policy, we just need to have a couple of council members. And I'd be interested myself to just go look, we don't have to do it together, just kind of go look through everything and make sure that everybody's okay with what we're getting rid of.
If you want to include that leather rod, I'll have the trailer brought in and parked down where you're gonna have the auction.
Be fine. So you don't have to make a decision tonight. If you want to make that next night, we'll have a list developed.
I think we need to, because I think you need to get posted and get listed what you got, because I mean, some of that stuff might be unique to non-local people.
And we could put it on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that new thing they
That
got,
new
yeah,
thing.
we can put it out there on the cloud.
I take a beat, you know. But I'm not the oldest.
No, you're not.
Andy,
You gotta know how to spell it to use it, Richard.
That's it, I don't.
So do you need a motion to?
We do. Do we need a motion to approve selling steel rods and other city property
As designated by a
as
team.
as designated by committee? I'll be on that committee, and Jake and Earl, since you guys are both here in town and retired.
Sure.
I'm kind of not retired right now, but yeah.
Maybe think about an auctioneer,
Yeah.
whoever. We could reach out to whoever you want me to call.
I'll make that motion as stated.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second. Opposed? Discuss establishing focus groups for 5-year strategic planning.
So I would like to get a group of 10 to 12 people, inclusive, any of you guys that want to be on it, and then reaching out to local community members to be part of it as well.
Mine too.
So, to work on that 5-year strategic plan that would go on basically the dashboard. So it'd be planning and really having a plan and executing it. So I need some council members on that.
Does it make sense for you to come up with a list of people for each one, and then we can just fill in blanks, or we
I
can,
have lists.
but I mean,
Yeah, I've made some lists of some,
then we can just write ourselves in on which ones we're interested in helping with, or
well, it's just,
do you need more than that?
I'm gonna need more, I need more help from you guys. I mean, I need some of you, whoever you guys determine to be on this focus group, to be able to come to meetings and buy into the 5-year plan, because, we need to be help executing it.
In other words, you've got a list of people you want us to choose from, plus a couple of us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't bring a list tonight, I wanted to see if
Right.
that was okay. But I also want to make sure that I can recruit some of you to commit to putting together a 5-year plan and seeing where that goes.
So do you want us all involved?
At some level, I want you all
I mean, I'm
involved.
just wondering, is it something we have an hour before a meeting or an hour after a meeting? Because I mean, the best way to get us all together at once is to have
Then we
before or
have-
after
yeah.
council meeting. I mean, because
Yeah.
we're scattered everywhere, and
I would
this time of year, you work late to get done with weather-wise coming and all that stuff. So I'm just saying, we usually all try to make the meeting. So I mean, I think having it before or after a meeting would probably be your best bet
Sure,
right now. I mean, and then whoever's here can whoever can make it can make it.
sure. I'm just, and just, I want to be okay to be able to go ahead and put a group together and start planning meetings and start this process.
Sure. Anybody got a problem with that?
Nope.
Or a different suggestion.
Preferably before, some of these meetings run late.
Oh, yes, definitely before.
Yes.
We can always update each other.
Well, it's gonna start getting dark, but, I don't foresee these meetings starting for the next, month. By the time we get a group of people together.
It's gonna start getting dark at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that enough information?
Thank you, yes.
Thanks. Discuss proposed IOOF driveway.
All right, this is another one of mine. I kind of put this on here more or less to get a historical perspective. Speaking to Ron and Kenius, this has, I guess, it's been talked about for several years now.
The first part, Gayla, have you got the deal changed for this?
It's in my bag to get work done.
So
To
I
get
think
the ordinance.
we were trying to get the council away from being the board and create a board.
Right.
And then I think this decision was gonna be for them, wasn't it?
Okay.
And
Right.
I talked to Gail a couple, 3 weeks ago, and we discussed this, and she's since then moving forward with getting it done.
Sure I am.
Amongst others.
But am I right?
Yeah.
That we was trying to we're getting the council off of the board, we're creating a board of funeral directors and some local people.
Right, with the representative.
With the representative, and then they were gonna put together a plan to bring back.
Right, yeah, cause like I said, he's calling me because I'm the representative, and I told him I don't know
Yeah,
what the
and
story is behind it, how long this has been going on.
too long.
Yeah, and he's been talking to the state, and coming from him,
That's why that's where it's at, because the state won't allow it to be anywhere else because of the hill.
right, which is absolutely nonsense, because there's already 3 driveways there where there's no issues. From the cell barn where there's 10 times.
But HR Green engineered that,
Yes,
and with the information that we got, the state went out there and marked out on the curb where the exit could be,
right.
and so they took the design from that point.
Wasn't there also an issue with cemeteries up here?
No,
I thought there was another issue with bringing that through.
we was looking at,
Or was that to make it a loop?
we thought that, because they could use this area for, herbs or cremation.
Okay, yeah, because that was the whole discussion with Ron, was one, what can we do to get this done? And 2, can we get rid of this idea, because going straight out would be about half the cost.
I don't think the state's gonna allow that.
Okay. Yeah, he didn't know if it was coming from the city, that if we contacted the state to try to get it moved, because they're not listening to him.
No, I think the only thing we talked about was maybe trying to take the big S out of it, and maybe do something a little more gradual.
More gradual, yeah.
Because some of this area is kind of useless with where it's at for casket burials,
Right.
and so they could use it for cremation burials.
Okay.
And it took the lease away from cemetery area, because
Okay, well, I'm glad
you're
you're
running out of room.
Well, we're getting back to the same issue of the time of year.
Yeah, that was,
Get it
yeah,
done.
the last
This is
time we
last
talked
year.
about it, it was right now.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't expect it to get done right now, but not knowing the history or the discussions that happened
You
prior.
probably have to go out again for bid.
Yeah, these bids are old. So, but I just wanted some clarification on what the story was behind this, and if we, like you said, if we put together the cemetery board and it becomes their issue, then.
I think that was where we was at, was kind of let them decide, because they knew more about it, and just bring something to the city.
Okay. I will let them know. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Approved quarterly funding for Main Street in the amount of $10,550.
Is Judy still on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Let me know if you have any questions.
Can we have what businesses and individuals are donating this money? Is there a reason, I mean, is that private, or can we, I mean, I can understand, I guess, if somebody didn't want it mentioned, but is there a reason why we can't tell who donated the money? Or is there just?
I can go down through them, but no, we didn't request permission to discuss who it was. But, I can tell you who each of the 4 donors were.
I'm just curious, I guess.
Okay, well, one of the,
I mean, if you don't want to or can or want to get permission, that's fine. I'm just curious.
well, I think there's probably been some, posting on Facebook and thanking and that kind of thing. So, this is the way I submitted it the last time. So the $300 was from Slick. And out of the $500 was, one of them was Penny Shepherd of Ottumwa. One was Dutch Country General Store for $500, and the third $500 was Hill Productions.
Were those all like cash contributions, or I thought some of those were like in kind or like sponsorship?
No, each of the 3,500 was straight cash, contribution toward our, Christmas. So it was sponsoring the Christmas events, and the $300 was a sponsorship for Blooming Bucks program.
So the way I remember, I'm just trying to walk through my head, the way I remember the structure of the matching was that there was, basically there was a $40,000 gap in the budgeted expenses. And we said, if you raise half, we'll match half. Am I remembering that right?
I don't know what the discussion was that was prior to my joining Bloomfield Main Street. I just know, and I put it on the invoice that that the quarterly funding was based on the $35,000 per year, and then up to a $20,000 match for the second part. So all I'm asking for the match today is the $1,800. The $8,750 is the quarterly amount that the city already promised.
I guess, yeah. My only thought is like on the Bloomin' Box, that's kind of a wash if I understand the way it works right, because it's money in, money out. That wasn't part of the budgeted expenses when we approved the matching, because the idea was supposed to be we wanted businesses to, start we were basically
presented that they do a $20,000 drive, fund drive or whatever
for the budgeted expenses.
For the budgeted expenses, they do a $20,000 investment drive for all the businesses and everything as memberships or whatever. And that's what I thought we was proposing to match. I didn't know we was matching sponsorships and things that.
Well, I don't know if this helps make the decision at all, but the $300 for the Bloomin' Bucks, yes, it's money in and money out, but that's a program that Main Street is not making any money on at all. So the administration of that project, which has brought about $25,000 into the economy, has that's something that Main Street has done without any kind of, we're not making 10% of those Bloomin' Bucks. We're making nothing. So I'm
making 100% of it because you're making us match it.
Well, but I guess that's kind of my point, though, is that there's none of that's going to Main Street. Do you see? So my concern is the way I remembered it was there was like a $40,000 gap in the budget. And we said, we'll pay 20 if you go raise 20. If we're paying 20 and Main Street's not raising 20 that's going to those operating expenses, there's a $20,000 gap. That's not what we intended, is what I'm saying. So raise the money for Bloomin' Bucks, if none of it stays with Main Street for those budgeted expenses, doesn't really accomplish the purpose. That's it's worthwhile, it brought money into the economy, that's fine, but that's not my concern. My concern is that, right, we've got a $20,000 gap in the budgeted expenses.
We used to give 55 and we dropped it to 35 with a $20,000 match to make up our shortfall in the 55.
Yep.
And their fund drive was,
because there was
the paperwork on the budget says that they tried to do 20,000 in fund drive, so we said we would match.
Because that was in the budgeted expenses.
Because they was gonna need that money to fulfill their budget, to pay their employee.
And if we're 3/4 of the way through the year, I don't think on any of these yet I've seen any significant fundraising that goes to those budgeted expenses, so that's.
I understand where you're coming from. I guess I think that the benefit has been to the city of bringing in the $24,000 worth of income into the businesses in the city. However, further, COVID has prevented a lot of the fundraising. We are just really getting into our fundraising for the year because of the COVID concerns and not wanting to try and come back on these businesses that are struggling. So we're really starting that fundraising now. I see where you're coming from, but I also come back with that has brought a lot of money into the city, and we haven't received any kind of benefit yet, but we were hoping that the city match would help to pay the administration of that program.
You're only talking like the $300, aren't you?
No, I think what was the last one, 8,000?
8,500, I think, was the first match,
Yeah,
Oh, well,
and that was bucks.
we already did that.
yeah.
But I mean, on this invoice, you're only.
Well,
talking
no,
about-
because I think the other ones, I think the others are sponsorships of the Christmas thing. This is gonna go right back out. You see, like, I don't think that's an event that makes money. That's my only question is on the budget. I'm not questioning the benefit, my question is on the budget. And I know we had COVID, but I think our concern was, I think if I remember right, looking at the budget, there wasn't any money raised last year either. And
that's why we did the match, to try to incentivize them to do their investment drive and to get them to go out and try to do fundraisers and things. That's why we thought the match would be beneficial as an incentive.
I guess I wasn't here last year to discuss, why there wasn't a fund drive last year. We've raised this money, I guess, and it's for programs that are benefiting the community. So
I remember right, Tammy, wasn't there talk of restructuring the way they
Right, there was.
raise money and
Yeah, there was actually Jen put together a program to do like I think it was a 3-year, growth program for fundraising, and that was happening as I was leaving.
but the gist of it was gonna be, instead of hit people for everything, it was gonna do it in the spring of the year when tax returns come in.
Right. It was gonna be, I'm trying to remember how it was set up. It wasn't complete yet when I left, but it was going to be, rather than doing each one of the promotion or doing different events, as overall contributions and then additional monies for the events. That is what I remember.
I guess I'm not opposed to sort of fulfilling this out, but I just want to make it clear, for me personally at least, this is not what I intended. What I'm seeing is not what I intended when we did the match, and this wasn't what I was expecting.
That's my opinion too.
But I will move to approve it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discuss future city council meetings and reopening to the public. I put this on there. I think we need to start trying to have a meeting somewhere we can let the people in to voice their opinions, to see us live. And I know with a lot of ordinances and stuff we've been going through, I think part of our glitch is
different phone calls from one meeting to the next, wanting this, wanting that, how about this, how about that, and I think it's just kind of caused us to not be able to properly or speedily get stuff accomplished and get things done. I did talk to Taylor at the rec center. They don't use the gym other than for volleyball games a couple nights a week. There's no more volleyball games on Thursday nights where we could set up chairs and people could sit in the bleachers and everybody could scatter out and be a long ways apart. If we could find somebody that wanted to do some kind of live thing, if we wanted to try to do that, we could get away. We wouldn't have to have the phone thing. Everybody could come. I think, to me, I think it's worth trying once. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But I think we got to get back to the public being able to come to the meetings. I mean, it's just, it worked for a while, and I think we've changed 2 or 3 different times, tried different things, and nothing's perfect. And getting back to the open meetings ain't gonna be perfect. There's gonna be people that's not gonna want to come. But I think if we can get to a place like that where they can sit scattered out on the bleachers or on chairs or whatever, and I'd like to try it once and see if it works.
Okay.
I mean, I know having it here works good for the public that can't come to the meeting, but I think if we can have it in a building or a facility where we can, I think we're gonna better serve the people by being able to have them being able to come than we are doing it over the video right now without them being able to be in the room.
I agree.
Yes.
I would very much,
Give it a try.
especially with some of the things that we have coming up. I think we need to have the public.
So can staff organize that with Taylor to be able to use the rec center for the next council meeting, the gymnasium?
Maybe we'll have to change the public hearing notice that we have for the early bird thing.
We don't have any that's out already, public notices that are out.
We have one for next week, or 2 weeks for the early bird drive.
Well, but we haven't mailed it. It's not been in the paper yet.
No, but I've sent it.
You sent it, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Get it changed for the
I'll just-
location.
We just need to change what.
Sandy, just remind us. I think
Okay.
I've already forwarded that to Melissa. Remind us and we'll scrap it.
Okay.
All right, thanks. I think that'll help. I hope it works.
For next meeting.
Next meeting, we'll have it at the Buchler Center, 7 o'clock. If that facility don't work, I'm open to other ideas. That just kind of hit me Monday when I was driving and I called her and it was available, so I thought it would.
Is that bring your own chair?
No, they got the chair.
Yeah, Citizens Mutual has their board meetings there once a year, but it works out pretty well. But
They've got chairs on carts. I think the only thing we'll probably have to have them do is raise the net. But they don't have any activities in there at all right now other than volleyball. I mean, it's not open to the public. The gym isn't. I don't think she told me that there's.
Meeting room big enough?
Huh?
Is there meeting room, is there meeting?
The meeting room has activities throughout the week, so I just thought if we did it in the gym, we'd have less contamination area.
That gym, you could really spread
But out
out.
in the gym, we can spread out.
We need
I
it.
mean, yeah, I talked about the meeting room, but I don't know if there's not enough, yeah, I just think the gym gives us the whole. And if it echoes a little when we do public comments, if they need to, they can walk closer and we can have their thing and they can go back and sit down. I mean, if you guys want to run a mock meeting down there next week sometime, staff, and see how.
Sure.
Claims, approve claims as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments. Reports. Tommy Joe.
I only have a few things tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is just what's on my to-do list. I have been having meetings with staff just to ask what their wish lists are. If there were to change anything, good or bad, what would it be? Staffing. Richard and I have talked a lot about staffing and where we see the city in the next 3 to 5 years, where we think we're lacking, if we need to shift anybody. Two things that I would like to propose to council is electric. I think that we need another person in the electric department, especially now that we have the engine room up and running. And there's plenty of money. There's over 3 million in the fund itself, but the salary line, we already have budgeted 322,000, but we're not even using half. So I would like to post a position for another electric person. Either if someone would like to switch departments and or someone from outside coming in. We do have some people on hand that have certifications in that department that I don't know that we're using to the fullest capability. So with Richard's grace, I would like to continue to look through each department to see what exactly we need. That is one area. The second area I would like your grace on is streets. We're putting a lot of money into the streets. Currently, we have Mark Wagler and Lisa. We are using Lisa for reading meters. I'm also using her in the office to help when Kyle or Alicia are gone on vacation, since she's aware of how to do the billing in the cemetery and stuff. So we have about 170,000 wiggle room already in the budget. So in discussion I've had with Wagler and with Richard, I would like to post someone to help maintain the streets that we're doing. And in addition to that, someone that he can take under his wing and train. So in the event that he should retire or leave the city, we would have somebody ready to go instead of being put in a position where people may choose to leave the city or retire for whatever reason. We don't have anybody stepped up ready to go in those positions. So those are the two areas I'd like your grace on tonight, if possible, is to post those with, obviously Richard would be the main person doing the interviews. He's gonna know really what Public Works needs, along with that lead man or woman if he should decide. And then honestly, the only other thing was draft of the audit. I did get the draft of the audit. It is not final. We have talked through a couple things like the mayor had stated earlier with the signatures and some of the different findings. There's nothing new on there. Everything went pretty smooth. There's a couple comments, nothing new from last year, making sure we're segregation of duties, who's signing the checks, making sure that now that we brought it to their attention, that we figure out how we want to move on that going forward. So I do have a note to have follow-up call with Mike from Anderson Larkin, just to see if his opinion on how else he would like us to structure that going forward so that we can correct any comment that we have for next year. And the last thing is there's just the budget. I've already handed out the budget worksheets to each department. I have Richard to work with for all the departments. He can meet with each department separate, but I gave them the last couple of years, line by line, what we've given them, and then having them make their wish list. We'll meet a couple times to decide where we can cut back and prioritize what do we need. So we're getting a jump start on that. So we're not waiting till the last minute to get that finalized before March.
So I got a question for Gayla with the hiring.
Okay.
In the handbook, I know the old contract we had to post in-house. We don't have to post in-house now. Can we post in-house? Or do we just need to open it up and if they want that position, they apply? If somebody in-house wants to apply for a different position.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good practice to continue to communicate with them about it. So I would post and
If we would
advertise at
post
the same
in-house
time.
for a week and like we always did, then
I wouldn't necessarily do that. I do both. I simultaneously post and,
In and out, and hire the best candidate.
yep,
I just wanted, that's new to us, so I just wanted to make sure we did that properly.
I agree completely on the electric industry.
And honestly, you know, we sat down, we kind of picked them apart to see, was there anyone that needed extra job duties? Or is there anyone we need to be more utility? What are we gonna do when people are on vacation, leave of absence, et cetera, so that we don't fall short? And those are the two areas we feel we need it most.
It's easy, no more vacations.
And we might have to let them roll
Then
over.
we have no more
One or the other.
employees.
Yep. Mhm.
Anything else, Tommy, do?
Well, that's it for me.
Thanks. Richard, you got any more?
Just a little bit.
Good.
North Street project, concrete is complete. Will be opened up, Columbia Street intersection tomorrow morning. There's quite a bit of cleanup and, sealing the saw cuts is probably the biggest job left to do. Seeding is gonna be on Monday, and so we look forward to that project wrapping up. The asphalt paving project, they're still working on sidewalks. They thought there'd be approximately 2 weeks left on that. That would be the final one on that. Wastewater treatment plant, if any of you are interested, we're having a progress meeting tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock on site. We've got quite a bit of rock put in the Sager units. And putting in valves, piping right now. Their goal is to get the new half done in November. That's pretty aggressive thinking, and they're gonna have to do a lot of work. So probably more mid-December, late December. The gas department, we had our utilities board inspection. It went very well, just kind of like an audit for the money. So there's always recommendations they have for us to do, but overall it went pretty clean. Gas crossing on Gregory Lane, crossing Highway 63. We're reaching out for estimates on that right now. It's a 2-inch gas main that will feed gas from this side of town across the highway to the other. So we've only got 2 crossings right now. It's too dry. So we need to get that done pretty quick.
Is 2-inch big enough, or would a person be thinking ahead and go bigger?
There's 2 on each side, so it really wouldn't matter. So we just bore underneath, but we have to get a permit from DOT, so we're starting that process. That's all I had.
Did you get that off the internet?
And throw at him. Where's
Council updates.
Don't laugh at it.
Well, yeah, your handwriting's pretty small, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, we do it every day.
every day.
I think they work pretty well together.
Mayor comments, I don't have any, I think I've made all my comments I had. Other than we have, give everybody kudos that's been involved in with the streets projects and the council and all the staff and people in town for putting up with it. And we're getting close to the finished project, and I think it's went really good, had a lot of good comments about it. Finally, we get a little bit of positive feedback. One other, are we moving forward, looking, talking for another project? I know we talked possibly maybe trying to find $1.5 million for next year, possibly. Are we still on the move?
I think that it's gonna, our checkbook's gonna dictate that probably.
But I mean, are we doing some ideas or what we need to get done, or?
Yeah, the first thing we have to do is layer on the utilities, how bad are the utilities underneath, so that will determine which streets we will say, okay, the sewer's fine, let's get it done. Sewer's rotten, we'll wait, so.
But I just, with the seal coat project, there's some streets that if we was thinking about possibly overlaying, I really don't want to seal coat them and then go back in this summer and overlay them. So we kind of need to have a plan
I think
to make sure that we don't double up on stuff.
the ones we're looking at right now are Dodge and Howard, all the way through that side of town.
Well, don't forget Good Street
Yeah, that one block.
and Short.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we're preliminary, that's kind of what we're thinking, Dodge and Howard. And then over on this side of the street, maybe looking at north, trying to get these interior long stretches good first. The more heavily traveled, I guess, are focus.
I just, out in the north part of town, out in that area, I hope we can get something done out there, because some people are pretty patient, they seem to kind of get left out, but it's just, whether seal coating or some asphalt or something,
There's some pieces on Buckeye that are in
yeah,
desperate
we
need.
just want to make sure we kind of hit some areas that's been deprived, so that everybody gets to take advantage of it.
Right, and I would make a statement that I want to thank the council for being aggressive on that. You know, that it's been long overdue, and I think that speaks well to the group we have here tonight. Appreciate that.
As far as the budget goes, I think we'll be able to come up with it.
But I mean, we've talked to the bonding company, I mean, it's,
Yeah, so, as we can borrow what we want, or up to that 1.5 million if we want to, but, like I said, we can look at that again after the first of the year with them, because we know we'll have one that's, coming callable in June. But as far as additional cash on top of that, I think that from the budget that I've picked through so far, obviously I'm not done, I mean, it's about this thick, but, I think just the salary line alone, we've really kind of over budgeted, I think, and if we have no intention on, putting 2, 3, and 4 people in each department in addition to what we have, there's quite a bit in that line, and I think we can hold on to it.
yeah, we skipped a year and a half in the last process, and so I just want to make sure that we keep this one moving. Money's cheap, we got the room to do it. And I know we've talked about some on the square, I think that we have that, with the state coming through and doing part of that, I mean, we need to talk to trails. I think we need to look at something up there, possibly with some TIF funding to try to get the sidewalks and everything done, with getting the buildings stabilized. I think that talk gets heated up again. But the streets, 100%, everybody benefits from them. County, city, state, everybody. And I mean, I think that's made the biggest impact on everybody's opinion right now. But I mean, there's some other projects that we need to do. I just want to make sure that we're just keep moving forward with that. Closed session. Closed session pursuant Iowa Code 21.5 IC to discuss strategy with counsel on matters that are presently in litigation or litigation is